Hey YouTube, it's me, Black Cat again, and today I'll be presenting you a 60 card Lightsworn deck. This is pure Lightsworns essentially, and I figured it's old school, but it's still pretty fun, and it can still be pretty competitive. Even though Grass Looks Greener is now banned, this deck is still very playable, and believe me, you're going to do a lot of milling regardless, even without Grass. Grass, honestly, I never really found much use, which is kind of why I'm kind of glad I sold mine like ahead of time. I didn't even think it would have been banned, but oh well. But anyway, let's get right to it. So in this engine, you're basically going to be focusing on this right here, our main boss monster, Triple Judgment Dragon. One of my favorite dragons ever, the fact that you just pay 1,000 life points and you can blow up everything on the field except himself. And if you happen to have another one in your hand, you could just summon two of them. Heck, even if you're lucky, you have all three, you can pretty much just hit 9,000 points of damage to your opponent right away, as long as you have 4 or more Lightsworn monsters of different names in your graveyard. And believe me, very easy to do. So anyway, but yeah, Judgment Dragon in this deck, you definitely want to play him at 3, and there's ways to bring him back if you accidentally mill it, but overall, I'll get to that in just a moment. Next up, we got Triple Raiden. Probably one of the better cards in this deck, but once per turn, you can mill the top 2 cards of your deck. And if any of them were Lightsworn monsters, this card gains 200 attack points, and he's also a level 4 tuner. And at the end of every turn, you mill the top 2 cards from your deck to the graveyard. So he's really good to make like Michael or Minerva, because he's, again, level 4. Moving on, we have Triple Lumina. Also a great card. You discard 1 card to special summon 1 level 4 or lower Lightsworn from your graveyard, so you can bring back Raiden to make Michael. You can bring back Felice also, or anything like that, like Wolf as well as an option. And then also at the end of the turn, you mill the top 3 cards of your deck. Speaking of which, we have Triple Wolf, because again, I've actually managed to mill 2 of them in one mill once before, and bringing out 2 wolves was like really good. And he's a 21 beat stick, so, and the fact that he doesn't mill cards is really good. So he's a really good beater. So I definitely recommend him playing at 3. And then next up we got 2 Felice. She can only be special summoned if she's milled from your deck to the grave by a monster effect, or you can revive her through the effect of a card effect. But that's really the only other way to summon it. So that's why 2 is actually enough. But basically contribute this card and then target 1 monster your opponent controls, destroy it, and then mill the top 3 cards of your deck. And it's also a tuner like Raiden, so it's good for like synchro plays. Moving on, we got 2 Lila. I only just play her 2 just because the fact that she can pop spells and traps just by using her ability to switch into defense mode, but she has to stay in defense mode for until the end of the next turns, or until the end of your next end phase. But, you know, milling 3 cards can also benefit as well, so definitely play her. And then next we got, I used to run this only at 1 back when I was playing pure Lightsworns in the past, but I decided to bump it up to 2 because she has come in handy quite a lot. But it's Minerva, Lightsworn Maiden. Because she searches out JD. She searches out dragons in general based on however many Lightsworn monsters of different names are in your graveyard, and you basically add up the levels in total. So as long as it's less than or equal to the level total levels, you can add JD to your hand. But anyway, and she's also a tuner herself, so it's not too bad. But I like her because the fact that she always gives you an extra mill no matter what, whether you discard her from your hand or you mill her from your deck to your graveyard. So, like, she's good for, like, solar recharge plays. She's good for Charge of the Light Brigade. You know, just, again, that extra mill may always count, you know? You never know. Alright, and for the rest of the Lightsworns, they're actually just singles. And I don't usually play them just to really use their effects or anything. They're just there just to make it that much easier for me to summon JD. But we have 1 Celestia. If you tribute summon her with using a Lightsworn monster, you can mill the top 4 cards in your deck to the graveyard and target up to 2 cards your opponent controls and destroy them. But again, like, it's very rare that I pull that off. I just need her for material. Then we have Shire. She gains, I believe it's, let me double check, 300 attack points for every Lightsworn monster of different name. But there's really nothing else really to use her for. Again, you just need more Lightsworn monsters of different names to make it that much easier to get JD out. We have Aaron, Genis, which does help a little bit sometimes, you know, just to get a few extra life points back, and you also do a little damage to your opponent if she's sent from your deck to the grave. Gareth, Arcus, Jane, And lastly, Graganeth, which I have actually managed to summon this quite a few times in the past. The fact it's just level 6, gets stronger for every Lightsworn monster, a different name by 300 as well. Same thing with the defense points, and he does piercing damage. But overall, like I said, you don't normally use these. You just kind of like mill them a lot just to boost your chances of bringing out JD a lot faster. And that's all. Moving on, we have, outside of the Lightsworn engine, we have triple Necrogarna. I like it because he can negate attacks. And the fact that, this deck focuses a lot on milling, it's not that hard to get this in the graveyard, like, ever. So, it's really good. So, yeah, that's why I play Necrogarna. Double Photon Thrasher. It's light attribute, level 4, and you can special summon it as long as you control no monster. So, it's a free summon, if you draw into one. So, like, why not? So, I was like, okay, so Photon Thrasher is definitely good. It's also good for Curious, because, it's, like I said, as long as you have which I'll get to later in just a moment, actually. We have Double Honest. I would run it at 3, but I just couldn't really make room for 3, so I figured just 2 is enough. Double Fairy Tale Snow. I would run it at 3, but I think 2 is also enough because you don't want to, like, use up all your resources, like, too much, so I think 2 is enough on this deck. But, yeah, that's just my personal preference. And I found this card pretty decent. It's, kind of like a last resort thing, if you really need to use it. But we run 1 Goddess of Sweet Revenge. It's actually not a bad card. Most people just kind of underestimate the card. But again, because sometimes you do tend to use up your hand quite a lot with this deck. So I figured like Goddess of Sweet Revenge is a good last resort thing. And the fact that you just discard her, as long as you control no cards, and she's the only card in your hand, you can destroy as many monsters your opponent controls, and special summon 1 monster from your deck. And then lastly, 1 Giant Rex. So if you haven't noticed it by now, this deck is very monster reliant. You mostly focus on monster effects, period. But yeah, like, again, because you gotta mill all your monsters as quickly as possible. So now we're moving on to the spells and traps. We have triple Charge of the Light Brigade. And I figured since grass is now banned, I figured 3 would be the better number. So you mill the top 3 to search out a level 4 below Lightsworn, so it's really handy. And, you never know, like, when you really, really need it, so. And usually it's really good for, like, at any given point in the game, And it's also a good way to bait out, like, Ash Blossoms. So it's like, it's really good. We have triple Solar Recharge. Pitch 1 Lightsworn monster to draw 2 cards, but you have to mill 2 cards. So it's not too bad. For the singles, we got Lightsworn Saber, which if it's milled from your deck to the grave, you can equip it to 1 Lightsworn monster you control and grant it 700 attack points. 1 Upstart Goblin, 1 Foolish Burial, 1 Monster Reincarnation, Solar Recharge, and Monster Reborn. And that's pretty much it. All these have come in handy quite a lot, and the fact that Monster Reincarnation, you just pitch like 1 card to add a monster back to your hand. Soul Charge is really great, and Monster Reborn, just to, give yourself a little extra synergy. And then for the traps, we have Double Beckoning Light, and this is how you bring back JD if you accidentally mill it, but generally you discard your entire hand, and for each card you can add any number of attribute monsters from your graveyard back to your hand. So like if I manage to pitch all 3 JDs to the grave, but I have 3 cards in my hand and I play this, I get all 3 of them back, and then just like, it's a good way just to like bait out like a lot of effects, because your opponent's not going to be able to handle 3 JDs at once. So like you use 1 to blow up the field and then summon the other 2. So it's really simple. We got Solemn Wishes, and by the way, we do have a Solemn engine in this. So yeah, Solemn Wishes because you also draw a lot of cards in this deck too, and the fact that you also want to replenish your life points quite a lot because you're going to be paying life points using JD's effect, and as well as these. So you also have like Solemn Strikes, Solemn Warning, and Judgment. This is your whole Solemn engine. I think Solemn Wishes is actually a good addition because you kind of want to recharge your life points as quickly as you can. That way you can make room for some of these other cards, and also you want to take advantage of JD's ability quite a bit. And then finally we got Jar of Avarice, just 1, just because if I manage to draw into it, I can definitely recycle like 5 cards so that way I don't deck out too quickly. Lightsworn Barrier is also good because, you can, if you're a Lightsworn monster you control is targeted for an attack, you can mill the top 2 cards, and it's also good just, in case like if you mill a wolf, you can get another one out on the field But note that this card does target, so it's really situational. So that's why only one I think is just fine. And then finally, Lightsworn Judgment, because now there was a time I accidentally drew into it, but people have often make a mistake when they use this card. But what you do is set it. Don't activate it during your opponent's turn. Don't do that, because if you do that, it's going to go into the top of your deck. What you do is, like, if you happen to summon a Raiden on your next turn, summon him first, and then activate Lightsworn Judgment to send it back to the top of your deck. Use Raiden's effect to mill it. That way you can add JD from your deck to your hand. That's how you actually properly use Judgment. But generally, that's how you really want to search out your JD. Is like you want to pitch it. That way you can add them to your hand. Anyway, moving on to the extra deck, we got Double Curious. Just requires 3 monsters of the same attribute, but different types. And this guy's very generic, or I think it's a girl, but I've never been too sure. But yeah, generally it's so generic, but you can send any card from your deck to your graveyard when this card is link summoned, and then you mill the top 3 cards of your deck. So, like, you can send Lightsworn Judgment, you can send Wolf, Felice, Fairy Tale Snow, anything you want. You know, it's like this card is just really good for that, and it's a link 3, so you can definitely do a lot of XCs and synchro plays a lot faster with this. And it really shows. Next up, we got 2 Minerva. I'm thinking about running a 3rd just because, like, Minerva, you kind of want to do more milling now that grass is banned, as I mentioned. But yeah, Minerva is really good. Just requires 2 level 4s. Also pretty generic. You just detach 1, mill the top 3 cards of your deck, and if any of them are Lightsworn cards, you can draw any number of cards equal to that number of Lightsworns that were banned, or not banished, but milled. So it's really good. And if she's destroyed by my opponent, you can mill the top 3 cards of your deck, pop any number of cards your opponent controls. So it's really awesome. I really love Minerva. We have a small Utopia engine. We just got number 39 Utopia, and then number S39 Utopia the Lightning. And really excellent card. By now everyone should already know what Utopia the Lightning does, but in case if you don't, basically when you declare an attack, you detach 2 materials, and your opponent cannot activate any card effects in response, and during damage calculation, his attack becomes 5,000. So he's really good. We got 1 Baguska. Everyone's got to have a Baguska when they're running a bunch of level 4s, right? But he's just skill drain, essentially, as long as he's in defense mode. 1 Black Rose Dragon, because I might throw in a second one, because sometimes it is necessary to nuke the field a couple times if you really have to. Because, like, this card is starting to become a lot more relevant with the new meta. And then finally, 2 Michael. Can't say much more, and this guy can also help you recycle some of your Lightsworn cards. That way you can regain your life points, and also you don't deck out quite as fast. So definitely play 1 Michael, but with him you pay 1,000 life points, and then you can banish 1 card your opponent controls, but it's once per turn. It's not like JD where his ability is not once per turn at all. You can pay 1,000 as much as you want. But with him, you can only do that once per turn. Anyway, thought I'd just give y'all a little heads up on how I still play my Lightsworn, my 60 card Lightsworn. And hopefully I'll catch y'all in the next video.